boy. Roman is the biggest bad guy character in professional wrestling.
When's the last time you got laid?
French Toast is the exchange student that you have like a 3-week affair with.
Like, we can see that you don't have pants on.
Can we tell the truth about Dusty sooner or later?
Bro, less people wanted that than are currently watching our stream.
And you know Vince, and you still think, are these true? It's like...
Welcome to the Mark It Down podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Mark It Down podcast. My name is Nick Cummings, joined tonight by James Asante, producer boy in the background, back once again to review another episode of AEW Dynamite. We are getting closer and closer to Revolution, but James has a very important update.
No, I have a very important question. How much do you regret the French Toast comment? You have to, right? On some level.
No, not at all. That in context, what I was describing was perfect because it was fuck, marry, kill, French toast, waffles, and pancakes, and I fucked French toast because it's the foreign exchange student you're still wrong. With.
You're still wrong.
You don't get it all the time. You just get it sometimes. You marry pancakes and you kill waffles. So
you're wrong.
I'm right. But as I was attempting to say, we are here to review AEW Dynamite, not breakfast foods, although I'm sure we could do that as well. As I again also said, we are getting closer to Revolution, and so is Hangman injured or not? We will get into that. We can. James, would you like to start there? Because
no,
at least at the end of that match, we'll get into the match itself later. Let's at least start with this Hangman injury, so to speak, and I'm going to put that in finger quotes, as it did appear towards the end of the match as he got out of a muscle buster and landed on his feet. He did appear to tweak his ankle a little bit, and he did immediately grab at it as he rolled out of the ring, and we saw him grabbing at it as we went off the air. So I don't know if this is kayfabe or not, and we'll continue to look through it into it throughout the show, but that is what we currently have. And I don't know what we're going for with the shucky ducky quack quack there, but James, hopefully this is just a kayfabe thing and something I think can play into the storyline as opposed to an actual injury here.
I don't know yet. I don't want to speculate yet because there's too much speculation going on in wrestling as it is. Obviously, I am very concerned for Hangman. I am leaning into the fact that we are dealing with a very heelish Hangman. I am imagining that this is a guy who doesn't necessarily want to get hurt before Revolution, and that was him taking the easy way out. We saw it in the promo earlier. He did not hesitate to blame his teammates for letting him down, that they owe him, he said. We're seeing a new Hangman here, and I'm praying this is just storyline because that triple threat main event is too good and we're too close to it for something to happen. But man, and more importantly, of course, I just don't want Hangman to be hurt. But yeah, I'm leaning towards heel Hangman taking the easy way out.
I think there's a lot of other directions too, whether or not it's kayfabe. But if it is, I think it'll also be he spent the entirety of the match directing Rob Van Dam and Hook to attempt to injure Swerve Strickland. And also himself, he was ignoring the match at certain points in an attempt to inflict – I've been back for 2 weeks now, dude. In an attempt to inflict more damage onto Swerve, and that could have possibly cost him the match at certain points. So I would find it very ironic if it was Hangman coming out of this match with an injury and not Swerve. Should this be kayfabe? Should this be real? That is really, really going to suck, as we have had a great build here to this triple threat. We've had seemingly a double turn of the last, few weeks, as we've been saying, with Hangman acting far more heelish and Swerve still acting like himself, but coming off a bit more of a face, cutting more face-like promos, especially the one they had I believe it was either last week or 2 weeks ago with the three of them in the ring. So hopefully this is kayfabe and it's just going to play into everything, because I think that actually helps build this match and plays very much into this double turn storyline.
Yeah, I've seen on multiple occasions on many different fronts. AEW doesn't really tell stories or anymore. I don't know how that narrative started. I think there's been a lot of great storytelling in AEW. I think tonight had some really great storytelling continue to play out. And I again, I'm praying this is just story, but even if it isn't, it's dismissive to say there hasn't been a great story thread going on for the last month, 2 months, really. So with the main event title picture with Hangman, with Swerve, and with Joe, obviously Hangman and Swerve go back way longer than the last 2 months. So here's hoping, knock on wood, that it is just a story. But I don't know. I don't know, but I am still in for this triple feud, or feud and a half, I guess.
Yeah, and hopefully it remains intact. I think the whole narrative of AEW can't tell stories always kind of stemmed from the fact that a lot of the matches they put on during the week are just sort of certified bangers you didn't know you expected or needed. And I think people have taken that as perhaps some of the quality fell off there for a little while, as opposed to what it used to look like at the beginning of AEW. I think people now have twisted that into, oh, they don't tell stories or they can't tell stories. Where they do, they're just not necessarily telling them match by match. So I think that's might be where it came from, but I just going to assume those people don't really watch the fucking show.
Fair enough.
All right, but let's head back to the top of the card as we set up for another match at Revolution. We saw the Blackpool Combat Club. We had Jon Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli face off against FTR. Obviously, last week we had Moxley face off against Dax Harwood in a one-on-one match that Moxley won via a chokeout. I don't even think Dax tapped. I think he just got straight up choked out.
Yeah, I think
so we had, after that match, there was a brawl, and obviously the BCC stood tall from that. So we now have this match as we continue this feud. I will skip to the end here as FTR went for the powerplex on Moxley, but Moxley was able to get the knees up after the initial superplex, and then Claudio was able to take out Cash before grabbing Dax and putting him into the swing. Moxley then hit a dropkick to stop the swing, and then put Dax back into the rear naked choke that he won with last week. But Cash is able to force his way out of a Claudio submission attempt himself, and he broke up that submission. As we were starting to get inside a minute here, because Justin Roberts was very vocal with how much time was left, which is always a clue in AEW, Dax is able to lock in a sharpshooter on Moxley, but Claudio then took Cash and locked in his own sharpshooter and went face-to-face with Dax. Him and Dax start trading blows while still having the submissions locked in, but eventually they break those submissions as they need both hands to start hitting each other. Dax is able to catch Claudio and hit him with a pile driver, but Mox is able to come back to, sneaks in as Dax is going for the pin, and he gets his own crucifix pin of his own that Dax is able to kick out of. Mox gets up to hit the ropes, but as he does so and he comes back, he accidentally runs into what is going to be a shatter machine. However, as Dax is lifting him up, the bell rings as we hit the 20-minute time limit, literally as Moxley was in midair.
I was so angry. I hated it. I love the match. I loved the match. And I just hated it because I wanted a winner. And
so did I.
I know we're going to get to it in a second. I know we're going to get the follow-up at Revolution. I'm just one. I will say I am getting nervous that I think this was the second time limit draw in 3 weeks.
But after Hangman and Swerve, I was a little surprised they did it again.
Yeah, it's the type of thing we didn't see that regularly or that often in AEW prior. They were very protective of non-finishes, that they didn't do it that often unless it truly, truly justified the story. And I guess this did justify itself in the story, but I just maybe wouldn't have gone this route at all. And I will say, I don't think it's a knock on FTR, because I think FTR is probably one of the best tag teams today. They're one of the best tag teams of all time, but there's just something about how imposing Claudio and Moxley are that I don't buy FTR beating them. It's just weird.
They have to play into the chemistry thing of it all, you know. Moxley and Claudio, they train together and they've tagged together, but I think they said this on commentary. FTR has been tagging together for years now. I mean, maybe at least a decade, and they've been at the top of the tag division in the entire world that entire time. So they really need to play into that, having FTR being able to outsmart and, for lack of a better phrase, out chemistry the BCC in order to win these matches. And you kind of did see that at the end of this match here. Just to get into what happened after the match, both teams were obviously just as pissed as we were, as we didn't have a winner. So they get back up, they start brawling, the locker room empties out, and we have a pull-apart brawl that goes through the commercial break. After the commercial break and a couple of things with Orange Cassidy, we actually went to FTR backstage, as they were still clearly pissed, and Dax laid out a challenge to Claudio and Mox at Revolution, and the BCC, while attempting to get through referees and securities to get back in their face, seemingly accepted the challenge. So it looks like we are going to get this rematch at Revolution, which makes the time limit draw make sense, even if it did kind of suck, because we wanted this. We could have just done this, pushed it all
at Revolution,
and had it at Revolution. I think that would have been a lot better.
My only hope is, if this is what we got on this episode of Dynamite, they're going to really go all out on pay-per-view.
Yeah.
That's my true, the one silver lining to how this went. So,
because it was a good match.
It really was. It was probably my highlight of the night. I really, really enjoyed this matchup. Great tag team wrestling. Claudio looked like a stud. He was 2-on-1ing FTR, and it was believable. It was believable. He just looked great. The moment of the dueling sharpshooters was a highlight. I love that bit. I thought it made Claudio look like such a badass. And just overall fantastic match. I don't want to say ruined by the finish, because I don't think that's true or fair, but I would have preferred, like you said, maybe just do it at Revolution and get the clean win and just have a great matchup that people will remember out of it.
Yeah, I literally think if you just had Moxley and Claudio maybe beating like a different tag team or two for the last week or so, and then on Collision this Friday, they call out the tag team division again, step up or be stepped on. Then FTR comes out. You have Mox versus Dax next week. And then you do and do the beatdown and everything the same. And then just have the first match at Revolution. I think that makes a lot more sense, because I genuinely, when they announced this match last week, I just was like, for free? And I was like, what are you doing, Tony Khan? Like, this is a pay-per-view quality match, and I couldn't believe he was just doing it on Dynamite. Now I see why. Time limit draw to get us to the match at Revolution. Whether or not, Kevin, there is a stipulation at Revolution, we do not know yet. There wasn't anything announced tonight, as far as I'm aware. But I wouldn't be surprised if we got one, or we got a rematch down the road with a stipulation. So I could see something like that happening. I 100% agree with you on Claudio. He looked great. He had a spot early before the first commercial break where he did a double suplex. He suplexed both guys at the same time.
From behind, one leg each, really.
Yeah.
He got them up in between. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, he looked absolutely phenomenal tonight. This kind of goes back to what I said last week about Moxley versus Dax. Very styles make fights in this sort of thing. And another thing they mentioned on commentary, these are four hard-hitting guys. They prefer to use power than speed and finesse. So they're going to go at each other head on, and I think it always makes for a good match at least with these guys, because they also appear to have a lot of chemistry together.
Yeah, no, absolutely. These guys, I think, I know FTR kind of get dogged on sometimes, and sometimes rightfully so, but they all have one thing in common: they really love the art of professional wrestling, and they all have, in varying degrees, a love for old school style of wrestling. So I think just the notion of these four guys being in the ring, we knew there was going to be magic happening, and they delivered.
Yep. Plus, it's four Dusty's kids, so
yeah. Also, I want to go back
I'm
to
not surprised ahead.
I want to go back to a tweet that Producer Boy brought up about how the locker room cleared for the brawl after this match, as opposed to Sting and the Bucks. I'm sorry, Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, the EVPs. The EVPs very clearly made it that nobody was allowed to come out. There was very clearly a decree made that people would be fined if they came in to make the save. So very different stories here. It's all about context. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, and even if the Bucks didn't openly declare it, I think it would be pretty obvious that anybody that interfered in their business would be getting a fine. So it's good writing. Two Pieces Real saying, how do you feel about Britt joining the UK and turning on Hayter when she returns? Did Britt go over there, or is this just
no, Undisputed Kingdom.
It
took me a second too. It took me a second too.
Well, joining Undisputed Kingdom. Oh, I'm an idiot. That would be interesting. I think at a certain point we could get there, and I do think that more factions in AEW could use a few women in them.
Yeah,
I've always enjoyed that aspect. We've got it sometimes. The Inner Circle had Anna Jay and Ty Mello in it, so that was kind of cool. But
I was initially,
I can see it, but not initially. It's going to have to happen down the road, I think, after Hayter returns.
I was initially against this question because I don't like when, I had more flashbacks to when Saraya and Ruby joined up with the Jericho Appreciation Society because of the feud that they had against Britt and
Adam Cole.
Yeah, but I would love if Hayter joined the Blackpool Combat Club because I think she'd be a perfect fit for that group. And if you have the BCC versus the Undisputed Kingdom, I think that's a good. I think that's a good feud. So you kind of sold me on it, Two Piece. Thank you for that.
Yeah, it's definitely an intriguing thought. I'll say that. It's not something I considered. I guess a lot of people had considered Britt joining Undisputed Kingdom. I genuinely thought he meant she went over there only because Orange Cassidy was just there, and I was like, did she go with him? So that's why I was a little confused.
Nah, it was Darby and his very bad tattoo.
But speaking of Orange Cassidy, after we had the pull-apart brawl, we went to a backstage interview with him where Renee ran down his absolutely insane couple of weeks between him getting his ass kicked by the Undisputed Kingdom, along with the Best Friends, who are now all injured, and as his aforementioned trip to London to both defend his international title in Rev Pro, which is pretty cool, and I think something we wanted to see more of with this title, and also to go on a press tour. So, as I said, all of the Best Friends are hurt, and this
You're not there yet. Yeah.
This includes Trent, who got injured last week defending Orange Cassidy in his Texas Death Match. So he's not medically able to compete, and we are now in this hallway with Doc Sampson to find out whether or not Orange is. Doc Sampson says Orange has met the minimum threshold to compete, so he's allowed to go, and Orange is like, okay, cool, then I'm taking Trent's spot against Mike Bennett. So Orange is truly burning the candle at both ends.
I mean, that's been his shtick ever since he lost the international title. Quite frankly, that's been his shtick since he had the international title the first time around. So I really don't know what they're doing with Orange. He really kind of feels like he's been in a holding pattern since he lost it the first time. I mean, granted, I say that as he's had, again, multiple bangers, multiple big wins. He is an international champion a second time. But it feels like story-wise, they haven't known what to do with him since he lost the title the first time. There was teases of him turning heel. There were teases of him and Trent being at each other, on opposite sides of things. And I don't know if they're just waiting things out because of injuries. I don't know if now they're just waiting for him to drop the title, maybe at the pay-per-view. I don't think he's dropping the title to Roderick, but I don't know. Like, it's not outside the realm of possibility in my mind. So I don't know what the plan is. I really don't know. But I'm glad to see he's doing something. My son just said Orange Cassidy is so overrated, and now I have to disown him or whatever. Yeah, no, just throw the whole child away at that point. We don't advocate for that here at the Market Down podcast, but when times are tough, you do what you got to do.
Just leave him at a firehouse. They're obligated to take care of him. I said last week, James, and I'm not sure if you saw it, I truly think Trent is going to turn on Orange because Orange has given everybody else a title shot except for Trent. And we've seen Trent desperately wants a title. He even fucked over Danhausen at World's End in order to win that Battle Royal to get a title shot. And Orange just has not given Trent the title shot, even though he even fought Rocky.
Yep.
Like and Ishii, which Trent was like, why the fuck are you fighting him? He hasn't fought Trent. And I do think whether or not Orange loses the title is going to be interesting, but especially if Orange loses the title and he never gave Trent the shot, I think Trent is going to turn on Orange because, as we all know, Trent is a dick in real life.
Yeah, he does have those tendencies. But the irony of Orange Cassidy being the workhorse of AEW is so amazing and hilarious. Totally pops me. Hey, man,
You get the show.
We are living in an era where the comedy wrestlers are the backbone of the shows they're on. R-Truth, a constant highlight on Monday Night Raw. Orange Cassidy, a constant highlight in AEW. It's just these guys are working smarter and harder. So thank you to them because they are constantly entertaining.
I mean, if you look at it, Orange kind of spent like the first half of AEW so far doing nothing, and now he's spent the last half of AEW busting his ass.
He's catching up. He's catching up for all the work he didn't put in.
He literally is. And speaking of some of the work, he actually did have that match against Mike Bennett right after his interview, which I thought was going to be pretty quick at the start of it. Orange hit a Stundog Millionaire and a Tilt World DDT very early in the match, and it looked like he had Bennett dead to rights. But the aforementioned Roderick Strong came down to distract both the referee and Orange. The ref was clearly not looking at the action, and Orange was staring at Roderick, putting his hands in his pockets to taunt him. The referee, along with some of the other referees from the core, made a very stupid mistake and got out of the ring to bring Roddy up to the top of the ramp. And this allowed Bennett to just straight up punch Orange right in the dick, putting him down, setting him up for a pile driver that Bennett hits. And then the referee, who magically returned on time, comes in for the count, but Orange is able to kick out as we head into commercial. Later in the match, Bennett is able to outpower Cassidy as they were going back and forth between a beach break and a pile driver. And I keep hearing your dog.
I'm so sorry. Wednesday put in work today.
She deserves it.
Yeah.
As I was saying, Bennett is able to outpower Cassidy, this time getting a Gotch-style pile driver and hitting that. And Cassidy is once again able to kick out. As James takes care of Wednesday, I will continue to run this down. Bennett is then able to rock Orange with I like he turned his camera off, but his mic is still on, so we can still hear the dog. As I was saying, Bennett rocks Orange with the right hand and a right hand and a rolling elbow before going up for another pile driver. However, Orange is able to counter this final pile driver attempt with a beach break for the win.
All right.
Is that just producer boy?
Yeah. He decided to work with the sound bar. So.
I was gonna say because when you got up, we could hear the dog because you turned your camera off, but you didn't mute your mic.
Oh,
and then producer boy started getting in here with the cow says bazooka. Anyway, after the match, Matt Taven immediately came back down and jumped on Cassidy, just absolutely beating him down until Roderick Strong returned and set up for the jumping knee strike. However, completely at random, Orange is saved by Jake Hager, who comes running down to the ring. He body slams, I think, Taven, and clears the ring out. And as this is occurring, it is announced he'll be facing Roderick Strong on Friday, which made it make some sense, but out of context, it was just completely out of nowhere.
See, but no. But it doesn't make sense. And it's not like a context thing because Tony Khan announced it after he came down. So that means Tony probably called an audible and he was just like, all right, he came out to help him. They're going to wrestle on Friday. So why did he come out? I know, being a day one AEW fan, that Orange and Hager were friends for a while backstage because Orange was basically his mini-me. But that is entirely a social media friendship that has never been on TV. So I don't understand. Hager, everyone from the JAS got fucked by Jericho just abandoning them and starting the team up with Kenny. No one made any sense. But I will say at least 3 of the members are doing great stuff right now.
Yeah, I kind of took it as Tony Khan made the match maybe after Roger got involved earlier in this match and then didn't tell Roddy. And that's why Hager was like, oh, I have this match. Let me make the save because I have to go beat Roddy up. I don't know. Either way, whatever way they decided to do it, it was very weird. It was very random. But, we got the save and Hager got some sort of a pop. So good for him, I guess. But Orange needed an ally here. Obviously, as I said earlier, Trent was hurt. Chucky T's been hurt. Rocky's hurt. So you'll take backup wherever you can get it.
You do what you got to do.
Yep. All right. After this, that's a breakout MMA fighter, Jake Hager. Yes, thank you, Chucky. I think he's still undefeated. He hasn't fought in a while, but I do think he's still undefeated.
So one fight ended, I think, in a DQ loss for him.
Oh, did he actually DQ loss?
I think he kneed the guy in the groin like twice.
I was going to say, I know there's a no contest. I didn't know if there was a DQ or not. Where was the hat? Good question, Kevin. I do believe
somebody took it. Didn't Danhausen have it for a while?
Danhausen. I was going to say Orange and Danhausen had it. I think maybe Dark Order might have had it on being the Dark Order recently. I think that's the last time I saw it, but I don't know where the hat is. I couldn't tell you. All right. Good point, Dragoon. Fighting tomato cans doesn't really mean anything. I mean, who am I to judge? If I take a punch in the head, I'm going to get knocked out. Or at least another punch in the head. Producer boy still having fun with soundboard, so I'm going to...
I muted him already.
I'm going to move on to the next backstage segment, which was an interview with Cool Hand Angelo Parker. He was getting ready for his date, Ruby Soho, and Ruby then shows up wearing a very nice dress, I might add, and Renee leaves them to it. As they walk away, we have a large Escalade roll up. I think it was an Escalade. And after Cool Hand Ange confirms that isn't their ride as they're taking a lift, we see that the passenger is one Ric Flair.
We got to address something really quickly. One, who does Taz think he is, judging Cool Hand Ange for getting a lift?
Calling him cheap? It was pretty funny.
Was he supposed to get a limo on his first date?
I meant to mention that. I completely forgot. Good shout out. That was hilarious.
Taz showing that he is not the New Yorker that he claims to be. So no, shame. I
like that. A low drop kick, man. If I was back wrestling, that's how I would drop kick. If I was on his knees, I wasn't big into getting hyped, Shivani. I ain't touching that one, buddy. Unless I was standing on my wallet.
Jesus Christ.
It's a good line from Taz.
No, Taz is great. But I have a bone to pick with that opinion. That's all.
Fair. But speaking of styling and profiling, we then go back from commercial where Ric Flair runs into Renee backstage. She goes and asks him about Sting's upcoming final match. And Rick reveals that he's actually a little disappointed as he feels he hasn't been involved enough Rick obviously hasn't been there the last few weeks, and he wanted to be more involved with Sting's last match. And since he is not, he's decided that he's going to keep his options open and, see who he can talk to. He then excuses himself from Renee and goes, is that the fucking LeBron James, he's the devil thing? Great. He then goes over to a door that he knocks on, and it is opened up by the Young Bucks. They're pretty confused as to why he's there, but he's like, I'm just here to talk. I might have some opportunities for you guys, and the Bucks invite him in. So, James, as Dragoon's saying, getting in a vehicle with Ric Flair is a pretty good horror angle for
But
me.
as Kevin put it, though,
Yeah,
getting on a plane with Flair that you really have to worry about. I think it's fair to say just avoid being enclosed anywhere with Ric Flair.
Yeah, don't be alone.
Yeah.
But James, we've been kind of curious to see whether or not Rick was going to turn on Sting one last time. And with this interaction, it seems like we might be getting that, or at least we're getting the tease, and this is all going to be either a red herring or a complete and total fake out by Rick himself.
Here's the thing. I'm just going to be blunt. I don't care. I don't care. I don't want Flair on TV after Sting retires. That's my main concern. I don't want it to happen. I don't want Flair to be aligned with Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, the EVPs of AEW, following Sting's retirement. Move on. Go to whatever pastures someone your age goes to. I don't want to see him on TV anymore. So, yes, woo energy. That is the reason Ric Flair is on TV currently.
Because he literally pays them to be on TV.
It's so desperate, but I'm fine with what that tweet suggested. That Flair really does try to screw Sting one last time, but Sting has just been through it too much, too long, and he sees it coming. I don't know. I've been wrestling back and forth whether or not I think Sting is actually going to lose. I'm sure he's going to, but man, I don't want it to happen. I would love Sting to just go out undefeated, but I know he's too good for that.
I've said personally, if Sting ends up losing and it's Ric Flair helping the Bucks, I want the Bucks to immediately super kick him upon winning. Like he's trying to celebrate with them.
I would love that.
And they just take him out immediately and leave him for dead. And I think that would be the best way to get him off of TV. And then obviously you have Sting there to get his flowers at the end. Kevin thinks that Sting and Darby are going to lose.
They are.
I tend to agree.
Yeah, no, they are.
I'm gonna cheer my heart out for them. I truly think they're going to. And we had another comment from Two Piece suggesting Flair as a special guest ref. Dude, I don't think he can get up and down and do the pinfall. Like maybe he could be like the special guest outside ref. It is a tornado tag, so they might need another ref, and he could just be out and about. But I genuinely don't think he has the physical capability of doing it. Dude could barely get out of the car tonight.
See, Dragoon, we've been through this already. I've already convinced you why the Bucks are the right team for this. If you're just doing this at this point for a bit, that's fine. But if you don't understand why Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, the EVPs of AEW, aren't the right team for this, you don't understand good wrestling. You just don't. So the same way you got worked by The Rock, you're getting worked by the Bucks. It's okay.
It's still real to him, damn it. Let's move on. Sorry, I left that one up there. We then came to a in-ring interview with Daniel Garcia. So for those of you who didn't see last week, Garcia faced off against Adam Copeland in a one-on-one match to determine the number one contender for the TNT Championship. However, that match was interrupted by the patriarchy as Nick Wayne and Killswitch, and then eventually Christian Cage and Mama Wayne all came down and took out both men, with the segment ending with Christian giving a concerto to Adam Copeland. Adam Copeland is now injured, so that means Daniel Garcia has been granted a title shot at Revolution for the TNT Championship. Garcia starts by thanking the fans for picking him up after the lowest point of his career. They stuck with him until he was back on top after the Continental Classic. And then he also tells Copeland that they will be seeing each other again, as he is convinced that he would have eventually made Copeland tap out had he had a little more time. Christian then comes out with the patriarchy, and he says that the only reason Garcia is getting this opportunity is because he was in the ring at the right time, that being when they decided to take out Copeland once and for all. Christian then says he doesn't want to face Garcia at Revolution for the title, and gets to his reasoning in a bit of a roundabout way, starting to go into Garcia's family history and his childhood and his parents before reaching the inevitable. Daniel Garcia's father is unfortunately dead.
Oh my God!
We are now seeing a tweet from Sean Ross Sapp saying that the address Christian gave on Dynamite is actually a cemetery.
God, he's such a piece of shit.
The fucking levels. Anyway, unlike Garcia's father, who Christian claims was an alcoholic who drank himself to death, Christian wants to help Garcia, which is why Revolution Christian doesn't want to face him. He wants to become his father. Garcia goes batshit crazy and says, I'll use this quote here. Thank you, producer boy. Since you know so much about my dead father, how about you come down to the ring and I'll put you in the ground next to him? Which I thought was a great line. Christian instead sends Nick Wayne down, who promptly locks in a Dragon Tamer after a double leg, which was a pretty nice double leg, but Nick Wayne doesn't know how to defend those. And then Christian, trying to pick up the pieces, sends Killswitch down. Killswitch gets to the ring and tries to hop up on the apron, but unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, Daddy Magic comes running in with a chair. He takes out Killswitch from behind. He tosses Garcia a chair, who chases off Wayne, and the two stand strong, in the middle of the ring as we head to a different segment. So I have lost James momentarily. Hopefully he'll be back. I imagine it's just the dog again. But I enjoyed this segment. I think Garcia has been getting better and better on the mic recently, especially as he went through the Chris Jericho school of promoing as he was in the Jericho Appreciation Society. And he's gotten a lot stronger. I also think hanging out with Daddy Magic has helped him a lot, as he is a very good talker as well. This was one of Garcia's better promos. I think he did a really good job before Christian came out. I think he did a great job of delivering such a line while he was so irate, because a lot of people can screw that up. They're screaming so much and yelling so much, and they're trying to put so much passion into it that they can trip over themselves. I thought he did a great job of delivering that line. And obviously, as for Christian, he's so good. I mean, yeah, he didn't technically dox his mom, as we saw from SRS, as this tweet that producer boy has up is saying, but he did get this shit on his dead dad, and he tried to adopt him all in one promo. He is unbelievable. There are a few better at what he does. You just know that, but your dad is dead clip is coming up at some point. I'm sure this will be added to the musical compilation to his theme music that is on Botchamania every month. Shout out Matthew. And I thought this was a really good segment to set up for the TNT Championship. As for Adam Copeland, we saw he was written out last week. I think I made mention to the fact that a lot of people were speculating he had to go film again for the new Percy Jackson series, as I believe he plays Ares in that. Maybe he's just doing press for it. Maybe he just needs some time off. I don't know what it is. But in the meantime, he is written out. It doesn't look like he'll be back for Revolution. Christian made reference to the fact that he will never, ever face Copeland again for the TNT Championship. So we'll see what happens with that. Let's hop into the comments here. James is not coming back for the rest of the video. I hope he does. I carried a carry last week, and I did okay. Let's see. Christian versus Copeland for TLC at Double or Nothing. It's possible. We already got the no DQ match or whatever the stipulation was at World's End. I thought it was one of, if not the best matches of the night. So I'm here for another TLC match. Clearly, they can't call it that, though. I'm fairly certain, two-piece, that is copyrighted to WWE. and there's nothing you can do about it. Producer Boy wants to play more sound bites that now that James is gone. Maybe, I don't know. You got to do, dude. And Kevin coming in saying that he hopes Garcia takes the belt, that Christian Copeland does not need a title. And I think that's a good point. It doesn't need the title. And it's been bounced back and forth a little bit, but literally between the two of them, strictly just due to the fact that we had that ladders, chairs, and tables. LCT? Maybe. I mean, I'm sure you'll catch a lawsuit, two-piece. But back to the titles. We had Copeland win the title and then subsequently lose it the same night. So it has been bounced back and forth between them already a bit. I agree it doesn't necessarily need the title. I think what might end up needing the title is perhaps when Kill Switch turns on Christian and we get back to Luchasaurus, which is something I alluded to last week that I think is going to happen in the near future. And I think, Luchasaurus winning the title and overcoming Christian is a good story. So I don't necessarily think Garcia wins. Would I like to see Garcia with this title? Yeah, I'd be down for it. I think he'd be a good champion. I think he would defend a lot. It would become another workhorse title, most likely over on Collision. I think just because Orange Cassidy does a lot of his work on Dynamite, but we'll see if he still has the title. And then perhaps you can switch it up if Roderick Strong does indeed win the title at Revolution. He's probably not going to defend it as much. You can put the TNT Championship onto Garcia, have him defend more. If we do have Copeland versus Cage for the title again, and Copeland does win, I also think that presents a lot of good opportunities too. Anarchy in the air. Well, we had it in the arena. I guess we could just put him on a blimp. But yeah, or a plane. Oh, actually, well, Adam Copeland already did do, what was that, money plane? So he's already knows how to fight on a plane, advantage Copeland. But as for Copeland winning the title, I also think that would be a good run for him. He'd probably have, the Cope Open again and defend almost every week. And I think that would be very entertaining as well. I've attempted to talk this out as much as I possibly can. But James still isn't back, so I'm going to have to move on. As we went to a backstage interview with Hangman Adam Page, Rob Van Dam, and Hook. Obviously, they were facing off in the main event tonight against Samoa Joe, Swerve Strickland, and Brian Cage. So Renee asked Hangman about facing those three men so close to Revolution, but Hangman actually comes out and says this is an opportunity, which actually surprised Hook and RVD. Page says it's an opportunity for Hook to get his win back against Joe after his recent defeat for the title. And it's an opportunity for RVD to do the same against Swerve, even though they wouldn't even be in this position if RVD had just taken care of business in the first place and beat him. And Hangman was continuing to seemingly berate Rob Van Dam, but RVD cuts him off and asks if Nana's going to be there because there might be a little something he has that Van Dam might want to get his hands on. But Heyman tells him to focus, that this is some serious shit. He says that they need to stick to the game plan of inflicting as much damage on Swerve as possible. And by doing that, they'll win before he eventually storms off. James, I just went over the backstage segment with Page, RVD, and Hook. I think it was a very interesting promo because we saw Page become fairly irate. He was blaming Rob Van Dam for his loss to Swerve, saying that the only reason they're here is because RVD lost that match. And while I thought he was going to go initially in a little more face direction by saying that tonight was an opportunity for everybody to avenge some recent losses, he clearly took it in a much more heel route and quite frankly was a dick to everybody. Even RVD just wanted to score some weed.
It's crazy that we had been clamoring and hoping and waiting for a more confident, aggressive Hangman, and we finally got it. But with that, the monkey's paw closed a little bit, another finger closed, and we got a heel Hangman out of it. So, I mean, we got all those things we've been waiting for from him, but with a twist. I do want to address something that 2-Piece said in the comments. AEW is misusing Hook in his opinion. He could be doing a lot more. I want it to be clear. I agree. I think they could be doing a little more with him, but at the same time, he is booked like an absolute stud for someone who they're still grooming to actually be on TV. He is still kind of green. He is still in need of a lot of experience. He's a natural. That goes without saying. We've seen it firsthand. This kid gets it. This kid is great. But it's unfair to both of these guys to keep making this comparison. But if you compare him to the other rookie, the other son of a superstar who was coming up around the same time he was with Dominic Mysterio, when Hook and Dom were both starting out, everybody saw the potential in Hook, and everyone thought Dom was just going to crater. But now, as time has passed, we've seen how Dom has skyrocketed. We've seen how he's found himself, and he's really working. He still needs to improve on a lot, but he's definitely made the most of his time. As for Hook, I feel he's plateaued a little bit. And I still think he has tons of potential. I think he has a bright, bright future in professional wrestling. But I get why they use him the way they do.
Yeah, I agree. I think Kevin in the comments also saying that he's positioned pretty well. And I would tend to agree with that a little bit more. I think they don't want to overexpose Hook. And I think that's a good thing. He doesn't talk a lot, which is part of his character, which is cool. I like that. You know, he's just kind of a silent badass. But when you put him on TV more than he already is, silent badass gets a little tricky to do.
I agree.
Because he's got to talk at some point. So he's been talking a little bit more recently, and I think he's done better with that. But, you know, to go back to your comparison with Mysterio, both of these guys have been protected in their own way. You had Dom first with Ray, which was protection, but it wasn't great just because he was kind of bland. It was just like, hey, look, it's Ray's son. And now he's protected again with the Judgment Day, especially Rhea Ripley. And he's able to play off of them. He's able to grow with them, learn with them. And it's more somebody, you know, like Daniel Garcia, where Garcia, who I was just talking about before, went to the Chris Jericho school of promoing while he was in the Jericho Appreciation Society, able to gain more confidence, come up, be his own person. And instead of just, you know, really good submission kid. So Hook, their protection is let's not overexpose him, not too much TV. If he's there, put him in the ring. We know he can do that without a problem. And I think it's worked out really well for both guys.
I agree.
James, I did want to give you the opportunity really quick. Speaking of Daniel Garcia, I was discussing his promo battle with Christian Cage. If you had any thoughts there real quick.
It's like I said a little earlier here in the episode that I think that for the most part, the Jericho Appreciation Society members got screwed with the Jericho Don Callis story. They were really left floating with very little direction. But Garcia is one of the members who is very fortunate with one, how he was booked, and two, how he was able to take that booking and really, really run with it. The Continental Classic did wonders for him. And
which he mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. Those 3 seconds meant a lot for him. Man, that's true. I was thinking about it 100%. That tweet, Christian Cage when -1 turns 18 is going to be a menace. But, you know, I realize I realize that Garcia has really improved a ton. It's funny when we were all clawing at the booking. Why wasn't he in the BCC along with Wheeler Yuta? Why did Yuta get the BCC treatment? I'd argue Garcia's in a much, much, much better position than Yuta is right now.
Because Yuta ain't on TV.
I mean, admittedly, he's injured.
I didn't know that. Right.
Yeah, admittedly, Yuta is injured, but he's very clearly a Ring of Honor guy first and foremost, and a BCC pin guy second of all. So I don't know. I'm loving what they're doing. I love how you heard the cat in the background.
Yeah.
I love
the cat in the bat.
I love how they've made Daddy Magic a character I actually care about, and he's not just a funny character anymore. Like, again, these comedy guys are delivering a lot of heart lately. So I'm all for that. And I would like to see a little more cohesion with Kool and Ange, because he wasn't, as much as I love Daddy Magic, as much as I love Matt, he wasn't the only dad for Garcia. Garcia had 2 dads, and one of them was also Parker. So I would like to see that be a thing. But
Well,
yeah,
Parker's out trying to get a mom, so
I understand that.
Ew.
But maybe take care of your kids first before you go out. Okay. So I don't know. I'm really enjoying this. It's weird because we're in a position where they could do 2 titles changing hands. Right now, the title scene is very heel heavy in AEW. I don't buy Garcia as the guy who beats Christian, but maybe he does with some assists from Copeland. And maybe that means also Roderick takes the title from Orange.
Yeah, that's something I said before. If you're gonna have Roddy take the title off of Orange, I would think the TNT title going on to Garcia would kind of make that the workhorse title, because I doubt Roddy defends as much as Orange has.
Yeah, no, I doubt it. I think he puts on, like, maybe every couple of weeks we'll get a good banger. But yeah, it's the whole point of Orange's story that he's defending the way he is. So I'm not touching that, Kevin. I'm not. Please don't make me. So I would just very much like to move on.
Yeah, but I did say I thought this was one of Garcia's best promos. I thought he did great delivery both before Christian came out and then after, when he was screaming, because a lot of guys might trip over themselves there. And I thought he enunciated and delivered it very well. So good job out of Garcia.
Roddy takes the title, and when Cole is healthy, they split and feud over it. I like the concept. I just don't think Cole is going to go for anything below the world heavyweight title. I think he's going straight for the world championship, whether that means through Wardlow, whether that means through whoever. I don't see him going for the international.
Yeah, no, he's not that there's below him, but he at where he is right now, or where they want to position him to be.
It's world title or bust. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Denise Salcedo saying Christian's favorite movie, definitely has to be The Lion King. Definitely up there. I'm trying to think of some other good dead dad ones. Probably enjoys the second half of The Godfather. All right, let's move on. Next up, we had. I'm assuming that's attempting to be the For Whom the Bell Tolls, because we can't use whose theme that is because it's copyrighted, probably.
Definitely.
Anyway, we move on to our next match, which was Timeless Toni Storm against Sydney Winnell, who was a local talent from Oklahoma. Obviously, this match ended very quickly, but it did end of note where Toni hit a Storm Zero, and then instead of going for her newly named ankle lock, which is called Break a Leg, well done, she instead went for Deonna Purrazzo's Venus Del Milo in order to get the win, taking a direct shot at Deonna Purrazzo. As Toni was celebrating and leaving and going up the ramp, Deonna's music hit for her match, and she came down the ramp, and the two stared each other down. And we got a very cool camera shot of Deonna on one side of the ramp and Toni on the other, and the split screen. Yes, half of it, Toni's half, was in black and white. I thought that was a great shot. We then went into.
I want to expand on that. We've had the half shot before, and it's been awesome. I love it. They made it cooler by when Deonna left, the entire screen went black and white. They are killing. And even there, you see the transition. It started fully black and white until Deonna got on screen, and then the split happened. I'm loving this. I'm loving this. And this is feeding me as a movie/wrestling fan.
Whoever's in charge of the director of photography there, in terms of that split and how they're timing it, it's very, very well done. When it's both of them, it's very cleanly split. And when one leaves, the camera goes to who's ever left and what color scheme they have. But as I was saying, Monet's coming soon, 2-piece. Don't worry.
But enjoy the ride for now, 2-piece, because honestly, Deonna is killing it. Toni's killing it. Monet is going to kill it. But enjoy these two before Monet comes in and takes over, because she's going to take over.
Yeah, she's going to swallow the rest of the division for a while, I feel like. So I'm going to enjoy everybody while we still can. And then we'll get into everything else. Eric's saying,
I agree.
How WWE has been taking production chances. I hope AEW does more of this. And I haven't watched too much WWE of late. That's for the Monday Night Crew and the the Friday Night Crew. But I've been seeing they've made some changes to like the ring apron and stuff. And obviously Kevin Dunn no longer being employed by WWE. I think they've changed a lot of how they do things, and it has made AEW production better from what I've seen in clips and segments and stuff.
Yep.
So I'm pretty cool with that. Kevin asking, yay or nay on them eventually having gray lighting for Toni matches, a la Sin Cara or The Fiend. I don't know. I don't think so. I think it would be kind of funny maybe if a match or two was in the black and white sepia filter, whatever it is. But I think for like a in-person experience, it can make viewing very difficult. A lot of, from what I understand, the lighting also makes wrestling very difficult when you don't have the bright lights. So,
and let's also acknowledge we loved Bray and all, but the Sin Cara lighting, the Fiend lighting sucked to watch. It really just did. It was hard to enjoy those matches with that lighting. So I'm tempted to say maybe they put a black and white filter on Toni's matches. Maybe let it happen for the screen and not in the arena. But even that, I'm hesitant.
Yeah, and if they did it tonight, like tonight was a squash match. If they just left it on for tonight, I don't think anybody would have minded. But if you do that for the title match at Revolution, I think people are going to get upset.
No, I agree. Can I just say one thing more about the match itself, actually?
Toni's match?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
I really wish Toni had just, like, squashed her a lot faster. Like, it's nothing against Cindy Winnell, but I've never seen this woman before going against the AEW Women's Champion. I would have rather just a quick 1, 2, 3. And again, I understand that they were telling a story, especially with what came after with Deonna and Madison Rayne. Just, you got to deal with her. And they were telling very parallel stories, but no, I would not call her a fan. I'd call her an up and coming wrestler. But I would have done that a lot faster. I don't think it needed to go it didn't go on particularly long, but it didn't need to go on as long as it did. I
mean, what was it, 3 minutes? Like, I didn't think that was that long.
I would have done it. I would have done it in about a minute.
Fair enough.
It's a nitpick. It's a nitpick. I'm not like, it didn't ruin the experience for me, but I would have done things a little different.
Hey, you know what? The women got more time, so yeah.
We got 2 matches tonight. That's a goddamn win if I've ever seen one.
Well, one of them was a squash, and the other one was the aforementioned Madison Rayne against the aforementioned Deonna Purrazzo. And obviously, this match went a lot longer. Rayne's a seasoned veteran. She's a pretty good wrestler in her own right. So it went a lot longer, but it did have a very similar finish, albeit with a pretty bad, I don't know if it was a botch or a near botch, where Madison almost broke her fucking neck. So I would say...
Make us smaller, producer boy.
Yeah, Deonna comes in here and goes for what was it? A flatliner? Whatever it was.
Even really know.
Madison just essentially, it looks like she spiked herself into the.
Yeah, that was meant to be a flatliner, but man, she rolled when she should have flattened.
Yeah, she tucked her chin in, and she just should not have there. Thankfully, she was okay.
Yeah,
because then it allowed Deonna to do the finish, which, as you said, was very similar to the finish of the Toni Storm match, where Deonna was going to lock in the Venus del Milo, but instead goes for the break a leg and forces Madison Rayne to tap out. Quickly after the match, Toni Storm comes running down with her shoe in hand and goes after Deonna. Deonna's able to duck, but however, Toni Storm gets her down, picks the ankle, and locks in the break a leg and refuses to relinquish it for a long while until I think Luther finally convinced her to give it up. And then
that was super awkward. It was super awkward because the ref was not calling for any support other than Luther to get into the ring and to stop her. For some reason, I don't know why Luther would have that power over Toni.
I couldn't tell if Luther was just trying to distract the referee and the referee wasn't letting him in, or the referee was trying to get Luther in. I don't know what the fuck was going on.
Listening to it, he's pleading with Luther to come in and do it, and Luther is just either super hesitant or super confused in the moment. But it looked weird. It looked weird.
Yeah. Either way, it was strange, but Toni did eventually break the hold, and she retreated to one side of the ring while Deonna retreated to the other side of the ring. And we once again had the split screen shot with the black and white on one side and the color in the other, as we had Toni just recklessly reapply her makeup all over her face. Yeah. So
it was terrifying. Also, I just want to address two pieces real quick. This wasn't a title match. This was just an exhibition that the champion was in. So the rankings are still intact. Everything still works here. It was just
a tune-up.
Yeah, tune-up match. Well said.
Yeah. So but either way, I kind of like this segment. I thought it was pretty interesting. How each women are just continuing to take shots at one another both in the ring and out. And we see Toni get the upper hand here, kind of seemingly, I don't want to say for the first time, because I think her movie last week kind of got under Deonna's skin. It definitely got under Deonna's skin as she put that tattoo around the matching one she has with Deonna. But this is the first time we physically saw Toni get the upper hand on Deonna as we head into Revolution.
Yep.
Good stuff there. We then went to a Darby and Sting promo package. It looked like we were in Sting's house or his bedroom or something. And
his lair.
Sting has a lair. Yeah, I guess Sting would have a lair. Darby starts off by showing the Young Bucks some pictures of Sting and his sons when they were much, much younger, making mention of the fact that Sting's children in the picture are about the same age as the Bucks' children are now. Very interesting. This then set up Sting for a just absolutely great and wonderful promo where he makes mention of his late father's recent passing, something I'm not entirely sure was public, but at least it wasn't, made too prominent in the public eye, and how it showed Sting that he is not invincible, even though he used to think he was. But what after happened to him and Darby and his sons the other week at the hands of the Bucks, he's going to give the Bucks everything he's got left in the fight of both his life and theirs. And I say this a lot with promos. I'm not doing this much justice, but in this case, it's not because how good it was, but because how emotional it was, James.
It was very raw. It was very it felt very real. It didn't feel like Sting so much as it felt like Steve Borden. And I love that. I mean, he brought a lot of his real life into it. I'm actually kind of shocked that this is the first time in Sting's career that his kids were involved in an angle, because I feel like WCW and especially TNA would have absolutely have brought them into it at one point or another. So
I was on the live thread on r/Squared Circle, and there were many people making mention to the fact that somebody attacked his sons in TNA. Now, I wasn't able to independently confirm that, but I do believe there's a good chance it happened in TNA. And perhaps it wasn't his real sons. Maybe it was an actor. But
it's possible.
It appears that there's a really good chance that something like this happened in TNA.
All I know is the AEW and TNA relationship has been not great for a while, it seems. So maybe we're just not acknowledging that part of the wrestling fandom at the moment, although I hope that changes over time.
Same.
But yeah. Kayfabe, this being the first time is pretty interesting. And it worked really well for Sting's reaction and his response to what Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, the EVPs of AEW, did. So, man, I am not looking forward to losing this man. I really don't want him to be gone, because he's going to be gone. He's not going to be Darby's manager. He's not going to, maybe he does the random one-off appearance every once in a while.
That's what I think.
But it's not going to be the same, and I'm going to really, really miss this man.
Yeah, same. I do think every once in a while, Darby's going to be in like some seriously dire need, and he'll just show up without, completely unannounced and save Darby, take people out with the bat, and then just disappear back into the ether. And you just never know when Sting's going to show up, and I think that'll be cool. It'll be fun. Hopefully, 2-piece asking literally as something I was about to ask. What do we think is next for Darby after Sting leaves? And that is a very good question. Darby obviously has done a lot of solo stuff before Sting, and he's done a lot of solo stuff even when Sting's been around. So they can definitely book him into feuds, but it's probably not going to be with the Young Bucks unless he has somebody who has his back in this situation.
It's weird because there was a point in time where it felt inevitable that Darby was going to win the AEW World Championship. And I still think he will one day. But there are so many people now ahead of him, in my eyes, that should be champion first. And I don't know how. I don't know if you got to heat him up. I don't know if you just got to consistently book him to win in the zone all the time. He loses quite a bit to help sell his feuds, and I respect that about him. But there's something about whether or not I could buy him as champion. And right now I can buy him as champion, but not before guys like Swerve, not before guys like Hangman, not before guys like Cole. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, the bigger problem, I think, is before he gets heated up, he's going to be much, much colder because he's going to climb Mount Everest in the near future. So that's what he's actually going to be doing 2-piece. I don't know when he's slated to leave, but he is actually going to climb Mount Everest sooner than later. I think it's later this year. So
it's this year. It's this year.
If they lose, both of them might just be gone for a while. And whenever Darby shows back up, he shows back up. And Kevin, it's definitely going to be a reset, but that reset might not come for a while.
Yeah.
Just because I don't think he's going to be around in the company. That is. All right, let us move forward. Next up, we had what was kind of an in-ring interview with Wardlow, but right as Shivani introduced him and Wardlow hit the ring, Wardlow threw him right out of the ring, so it was more of just a promo. Wardlow obviously is pissed as usual, but this time it's because he said that he used to have thousands of people chanting his name, but now he's the one homegrown AEW superstar who should have had a rocket strapped to his back, but instead had it strapped upside down. He doesn't understand how he hasn't gotten a title shot yet, especially compared to the last 3 champions that AEW has had. Wardlow then runs through them, and starting by saying he gave the so-called, quote-unquote, best in the world, the beating of his life, to the point where his body is still falling apart, obviously in reference to CM Punk. He then talks about the guy who's, quote, better than you and you know it, unquote, saying he gave him the beating of a lifetime and defeated him in mere minutes, obviously referencing MJF. And the last time he faced the, quote, most dangerous person in the room, unquote, Samoa Joe, Wardlow ended up choking him out. Wardlow claims that he is the baddest, quickest, toughest, nastiest son of a bitch to ever lace up a pair of boots, and he's tired of not being seen as such and tired of not being seen as a world champion. We then also later got something that was announced for him, but I'm going to save it because I want to do that separately. But James, similar to Garcia earlier in the night, I think this is one of Wardlow's best promos ever.
I agree.
3 former champions. He was passionate, articulate, and he's said a lot more than he usually does. And this is what we need out of this guy if he's going to be propelled into the main event scene.
I completely agree. I said it a few weeks ago during one of his matches that I legitimately thought it was one of the best matches we've seen of him in AEW, if not the best match of his. And this week, I agree on the promo front. I think this is the best promo he's ever cut in AEW, if not his entire career. I think, say what you will about Undisputed Kingdom, it's a group that has lost a lot of steam and a lot of momentum and their purpose, essentially, with MJF being gone. Yep. But I think the one thing they're accomplishing, the one thing they're truly, truly succeeding in, is making Wardlow better. Maybe not in terms of crowd response, maybe not in terms of appeal, but legitimately in terms of making him an overall better package. This association with Undisputed Kingdom has made Wardlow better. And I'd call that a win. I really would. So more of this. I mean, I don't want to disregard what Kevin said. Wardlow needs to go to WWE. Kevin says he's better off there. Maybe. Quite frankly, I don't entirely disagree with you. I think Wardlow would thrive in WWE. I think they would find a lot to do with him. And I think they'd help him highlight his strengths. But I don't think that his time in AEW is over. I don't think it's the dud that it's appeared to be. He's had some truly, he mentioned them in this promo, he's had some true highlights in his career. The match with Punk, he's right. No one has dominated Punk since Punk has returned back to wrestling the way Wardlow did. That was a highlight. Wardlow beating MJF clean the way he did. I could count on one hand how many people have beaten MJF in AEW, and Wardlow is one of them. And with Joe, although admittedly I never want to see Wardlow versus Samoa Joe again after their TNT title feud, he does have a win over the current AEW World Champion. So yes, Wardlow has had some great moments in AEW, and I think there are more to come. So just give me a little bit more of this, and God willing, Cole is feeling well soon, because that group needs some direction.
Yeah, I would have completely agreed. You said they lost a lot of steam since their debut. I feel like they barely even had any. They pretty much tripped at the starting line, unfortunately. And yeah, part of that is because one of them has a broken foot, and not to intend the pun there, but I guess it did kind of work. So hopefully I don't want to say they've split them up. They clearly haven't, but Wardlow had his own segment tonight, and Roddy's kind of running with the Kingdom, and they were in their own stuff tonight. And maybe by kind of just separating them out a little bit and having them come together when need be, it might help them a little bit, just so that they're all built together. And then when we see them together as one faction, they look a lot stronger.
Yeah.
I think there was a comment in here I did want to get to. Kevin saying that he could see them feeding Wardlow to Swerve when he wins the title, maybe, but this kills the Swerve. This kills the Wardlow.
I also just don't see them doing another heel versus heel program. Oh, I mean, I guess Swerve would be a face. Like they're getting in there.
If we're going that way. The other crazy thing I saw, or a comment, 2P suggesting Wardlow has an open challenge and it's accepted by Okada at Revolution. But I think in a similar fashion, Okada has to win that fight, and this kills the Wardlow.
Yes.
Wardlow, anybody Wardlow faces right now, he needs to beat. He needs to continue this win streak. He needs to stay hot, both on the microphone and in the ring, so he can continue to climb up the standings and eventually make himself worthy to face off for the AEW World Championship. So, as James goes, takes care of Wednesday. I will just say that he's going to remain hot, and I wouldn't expect him to lose a match, let alone a feud, anytime soon. Kevin also bringing up perhaps they're saving Okada for the Boston show. It's possible you have Monet and Okada. It is, whatever they're calling it, big business, and Okada is the rainmaker. It's possible, although I do think maybe you debut him with his own title.
Yeah, I would debut him on the West Coast, where you're going to get a bigger Japanese influence in terms of the fans. And he deserves his own CM Punk, Mercedes Moné debut in AEW.
Yeah, Kevin, obviously, something big is Mercedes. Like, they literally called it Boston and put the two S's with a dollar sign in it. So... In 2P saying they could pull an all-out 21 where they have both Cole and
you have Mercedes Moné coming out doing her thing, and then you have Okada come out immediately after and just rainmaker Mercedes. I don't think it works, guys. I don't think it works, but I appreciate the creativity.
Yeah. Let's move on because we have something very, very important to talk about. And it was announced at the end of the Wardlow segment where I think Excalibur said that, maybe it was Shivani, whoever it was, said that Wardlow was the first entrant into something called Meat Madness. We don't know what this is. I will jump the gun a little bit here and say Powerhouse Hobbs was also announced by that carny piece of shit Don Callis. So, Tony, maybe a little too late, but he is attempting to take advantage of the big meaty men slapping meat match. And James, I don't know what this is going to be, but it sounds like it's going to be fun.
Keep your 30-minute matches. Keep your 5-star classics. I want to see big meaty men slapping each other's meat. Give me what I want. Give me what I've been clamoring for. Give me what I cheer for every time it happens. I will loudly and proudly cheer my head off for a meaty match. Meaty Madness? I'm going to be wearing a bib for this match.
A poncho.
I'm going to feel gross in the best ways possible following this matchup. TNA Impact was known for a match called the Monsters Ball match, and it was just pure, utter mayhem. It was just pure chaos, weapons, violence, and all that. That was great. This is the true Monsters Ball match, and the only violence I need are those two men chopping each other's titties like there's no tomorrow.
Well, two-piece bringing up some other people who could possibly in it. Miro, Lance Archer, I think are both viable candidates.
Woo! Yeah.
Who is it that Miro faced in the original meat match? I'm blanking on his name. Ring of Honor guy.
Ring of Honor guy.
Not Shane, is it Shane something, right?
Shane Taylor?
Yeah, Shane Taylor. Maybe that
no,
was.
but that's not the
Hobbs.
one.
Sorry, he faced Hobbs,
Yeah,
but I think Shane Taylor could be.
Another
match.
entry.
Shane Taylor had a match.
Bring Keith Lee back. God willing, he's healed from injury. Let that happen. Give me all of it.
Yeah,
I want the meat. Arby's is Arby's hosting or sponsoring the match?
They 100% should, and if they don't, they are fools. Because they
God.
allegedly have the meats.
God, I don't know that I'm ready for this. You know when you ask for something for so long and you finally get it and you just don't know how to react? It's like the Joker said, like you're just a dog chasing cars and you don't know what you do once you get it. I'm afraid for whoever's watching this pay-per-view with me.
Kevin suggested that perhaps all of the foreign objects are just chunks of meat.
Oh, God.
Such as a rack of ribs wrapped in barbed wire, which is very difficult to say. Cooked and smothered in JR's barbecue sauce. Actually, I can see JR's barbecue sauce being the sponsor for this as well. That'd be a pretty good one.
Madre de Dios.
Two-piece suggesting maybe Big Bill. Maybe he's not necessarily meat, but he is a big guy.
Nah, there's some meat on that bone.
Yep.
There is definitely some meat on that bone.
It's lean meat, but it's meat.
I want spatulas. I want tongs. Okay? I want grill sets. Give me what I want.
James wants a full-blown hill country buffet fucking platter.
We've had Cracker Barrel matches where barrels were used, barrels were rolled. I can get this. I feel like this is fair.
We had a Mountain Dew match to Kevin's
Absolutely.
point.
Kevin, you get it. I appreciate you.
But sponsor or no sponsor, we're getting the meats. So be sure to get that smoker going, get the grill on. If you want to pan sear and roast whatever you got, get that going too. Whatever you got to cook all these meats, get it clean, get it ready, because we are getting meat madness and the hype is real. Also,
absolutely. I'm actually kind of ashamed of us for having waited so long to say his name.
Because unfortunately, you think meat, you think tall, and Silver it might be.
I think beefy. I think beefy. I think wide more than tall. But
yeah, he's vertically challenged, but he is beefy.
Oh God, Shrek, please don't look at me like that.
That's how you're looking at this match. Yeah. All right, before James gets too far down the rabbit hole, let's move on. as we go backstage with the Bang Bang Scissor Gang following their win on Rampage last week. And the crew discussed that match before Daddy Ass says that he wouldn't hate running with the Collision Cowboys. Jay White then makes a very odd quip about the Ass Boys never winning Trios Gold until he showed up, but he kind of likes the idea of Billy joining them, suggesting a team of Billy, Colton, and himself, not Austin. Everyone agrees to this, though, with Bowen saying that no matter the combo, nobody can beat the Bang Bang Scissor Gang.
I agree. I thought this was a really clunky promo, but it wasn't so much odd. It was just weird. But I understand the logic here, even if it's really like a bad trope at this point. He got bumped off the apron by Billy, so he's feeling some type of way.
Yeah,
so
even though Billy apologized. Billy did apologize.
Without prompt. Yes, Kevin. I already acknowledged, and you acknowledged my answer, but yes. Don't make the joke. Don't make the joke.
I wasn't, but the question was, is James just housing a thing of cranberry juice at the moment? And yes, he is.
I'm chugging it.
I wouldn't say this promo wasn't I guess you could say clunky. It wasn't very defined. They were all just kind of back there shooting the shit, and then one dominant voice would take over, and then we go back to shooting the shit again. So you couldn't really tell necessarily the entire time what was going on. Now, Kevin thinks Jay White's above all of this, but he likes it. I agree in a sense that I think he can be the world champion, but obviously the top of the card is very crowded right now. And instead, they have two of their hottest acts teaming up together with all six of them having gold on them. So as far as putting him somewhere, there are far worse places you could put him.
I understand the logic, and I agree with Kevin. He's above this, but I like it. I think a lot of why I like it is because all the talent involved are so good that they're elevating something that is pretty mediocre at its base level, and they're turning it into something enjoyable. Yeah. I understand how crowded the main event scene is right now. I understand how crowded the world title scene is. Quite frankly, if I had to choose between Swerve and Jay White right now, it should be Swerve. He's the hotter act. But that's not to say that Jay shouldn't maybe be going for the international title. Or if Daniel Garcia wins the TNT title at Revolution miraculously, he should almost immediately lose it to Jay White. I feel like Jay should have singles gold around his waist. I have no problem with him being a trios champion, or in this case, the six-man tag team champion. But this is a singles wrestler. The only reason he's doing this is because Juice is hurt right now.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And I agree with you. I thought he was going to be the one to beat Orange Cassidy for the the international championship. Yep. So I'm a little disappointed he's not in that. I understand we need to build up this new faction in Undisputed Kingdom, but I think he would have been better suited to win the title. And we also would have had gang warfare with the Bang Bang Gang going against Best Friends. I think that would have been great too. But instead, he's over here. He's got gold. He's in a fairly prominent position with the Acclaim. So they don't. It's not like they don't have him on ice, but they have him under a hot plate.
Yeah, no,
under a heat lamp rather, on a hot plate. So when they need to, they can take him back out, and he'll still be hot, and we'll be okay. 2P saying when Juice comes back, he should convince Jay to betray the group, but the Ass Boys stay with the Acclaimed.
No, I would not separate the Ass Boys from Jay or Juice. Those four guys have weirdly great chemistry.
They really do. They are so good together. The Guns doing the Guns Up for the Bullet Club, I think, is perfect. They are great together, and they will eventually all turn on the Acclaimed. Yeah. I think that's a given, unless they swerve us and make the Acclaimed heels, which would be weird. But I cannot see that happening. And yes, the Ass Boys do need to be the tag team in the faction, and that's why they're perfect with Jay and Juice when he returns. What was Juice's injury again? He break his face?
I don't think that was the official diagnosis. I don't know, actually. I'm not sure. I wasn't sure if it was an arm thing or a leg thing or a torso thing, but I don't think it's a face thing.
I don't remember. I feel like I can't remember if he broke his hand or his jaw or something. I thought there was something weird. If you could look that up for us, I'd appreciate it.
I think they've gotten better that they could be on their own, but they're definitely highlighting strengths being in a group. They work well when they're bouncing off of other people. So I think they have the tools now that they could be a formidable tag team on their own. But yes, they should stay with Bullet Club.
To wit, I said last week where what is Juice Robinson's injury, producer boy? If you could look that up, thank you. I said last week Austin's new, I guess, character is he says something by cutting somebody off, and then everybody just ignores him, and then the next person says it, and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, that was a great idea." That happened with Billy 2 weeks in a row, and I think it's great. He's found a really good character within this group, and pulling him not just out of the group entirely with the Bang Bang Scissor Gang, but if you pulled him out of Bullet Club Gold, I think it would start to fall apart a little bit. Whereas
that's one of the things.
Them together, he's in a great role.
That's one of the things that would have literally horrified me in high school. Like, I could definitely have seen myself in a position where I say something, nobody pays attention to me, somebody else says it next to me, they say it, and like the vein in my forehead just starts to pulsate.
According to Fightful Select, Rock Hard Juice Robinson is currently out of action with a back injury that requires surgery. So we were both wrong.
I said it was potentially a torso thing.
All right. Thank you, producer boy. We appreciate it. Let us head into our next segment, which was we had a quick promo package for Will Ospreay, actually, and that set up a backstage interview with the Don Callis family. Renee asked how the upcoming match between Ospreay and Takeshita is going to impact the family, and that carny piece of shit Don Callis says it'll make them stronger, and at the end of it, everyone will be still be family members, and there'll be a tighter unit, especially with Will officially leaving the UK and coming over to America. Don also mentions that Will just said his goodbye to the UK, and people thought he was going to be leaving with Tony Khan. However, Will stayed, and that carny piece of shit will be going to get Will personally. Don then also announces Powerhouse Hobbs for Meat Madness, as I mentioned earlier, and he mentions that on Rampage, he's heard that Sammy Guevara is going to be around, so he's going to deal with that, and I quote here, that cuck, and take him out on Friday.
He said it so sharply. He said it so matter-of-factly. He said it so smoothly that there's no reason for me to think that Sammy Guevara is a cuck, but I believe it. I was entranced by that burn. So, certain things, like Richard Gere and the gerbil.
Just things that weren't true that we all just are going to take as fact.
Yep.
Two-piece coming in with some more meat suggestions. Brian Cage, Brody King, Killswitch, Toa Leona, and Black Taurus.
Oh, God.
I'm sure James would love that last one. Taurus has worked a little bit at AEW, I believe, right?
Ring of Honor.
He's worked some Ring of Honor, so maybe they could get him on.
Something, but
he would be, I think, the toughest, but I would love to see him. He is low-key one of my favorites. Also, Kevin saying Takeshita looks straight out of a Yakuza game with his hair down. And yeah, kind of. It's a good shout.
Oh, God. Jacob Fatu versus Taurus. That is a match. Holy crap.
Yeah, those are some big boys right there.
Oh, my God.
Nice pop-up Samoan drop by Taurus there.
And Fatu.
Yep. Ooh.
Ooh.
Power slam. Is Taurus gonna end up in my top 5 power slams?
It's feeling that way. Oh my God!
What a gore! Ronald off the top rope by Fatu.
I would have loved to have been there for that match. That had to have been MLW.
That looked amazing. I highly recommend going to check out the highlights. So for those of you on the audio side of things, that looks sick. Jacob Fatu versus Black Taurus. But let us head to our main event, which saw Hangman Adam Page, Rob Van Dam, and Hook face off against Samoa Joe, who could also be in the meat match, but he's busy, Swerve Strickland, and Brian Cage. This match was very interesting. They made a lot of notes about how during the promo earlier, Hangman told Swerve and Hook to really focus in on or excuse me,
RVD
RVD and Hook to really focus in on Swerve and how he was trying to take charge the entire time. And also, too, you can see when Hangman eventually tagged in for a hot tag, he was more focused on taking out Swerve than going after Brian Cage, who was a legal man, to the point where Hangman actually had Cage lined up for a buckshot lariat, but instead opted to climb to the top rope and go for presumably, a Orihara moonsault. But Cage was able to recover because Hangman took so much time and went up there for a superplex. Cage did hit the superplex, but also at his own expense, as Hook climbed in beneath him and kind of assisted the superplex, but also was able to briefly take out Cage. Everyone then got taken out except for the 3 men in the title match at Revolution, and they all squared off with Joe and Swerve doing their best to work together. And as they fought onto the apron, Swerve was on the top, Hangman and Joe were on the floor, and Swerve attempted to kick Hangman, but Hangman ducked it, and Swerve accidentally kicked Joe. Hangman was then able to take Swerve and powerbomb him through the announce desk, pretty much taking him out of commission, and Taz as well. And then, as I mentioned earlier at the top of the show, after a little more chaos, Hangman was put into a muscle buster by Samoa Joe, but he was able to escape by flipping forward, seemingly twisting his ankle at least a little bit. He at minimum tweaked it, or was at least selling tweaking it. And he did that as he tagged in Rob Van Dam. Joe actually got on RVD pretty quickly and put him down into the corner. But as Joe was talking shit, Hook was able to come back into the ring and hit him with the T-bone suplex, setting RVD up for the five-star frog splash. However, Cage then recovered, and he came up the stairs and pushed RVD off the top rope, almost hitting Aubrey Edwards. I genuinely thought there was going to be a rough bump there for a second, but RVD just went into the ropes instead and then fell off. And he was taken by Joe as Brian Cage hit a rolling elbow to take Hook out. Joe locked in the coquina clutch, and RVD was passed out for the win. And then as the show went off the air, we had Joe standing tall with the title in the middle of the ring, with Swerve looking on from the outside, and Hangman, as I mentioned, grasping at his ankle. James, this is a pretty chaotic match, especially at the end. It was long, I thought.
Yeah.
Excuse me. It went 2 commercial breaks, and everything up until the end was kind of just your standard, face takes the heat in the corner and they just beat each other up and whatever, and then you get the hot tag. And we did that back twice, once with Hook tagging in RVD, which Hangman was annoyed at, and then RVD tagging in Hangman, finally leading to all the chaos I just described. I thought RVD was a little sloppy, but
this wasn't one of his better showings, unfortunately. Yeah. He didn't look bad, but he just didn't look as crisp as we've been pleasantly surprised to see him be.
Right, not working with a lot of these people, or not working with them for a long time. This guy like Samoa Joe, who I assume he hasn't worked with since probably TNA, yeah. Which Joe made reference to when he pushed him in the corner. He's like, "You remember me?" But it was small things like, for example, Joe hitting a spot in the corner where he goes in with the shoulder and then does the enziguri. RVD had already fallen down, and Joe had to completely adjust the enziguri. So just little shit like that, but not enough to take away from the match. I think the match in general was just kind of mid.
It was
maybe
fine.
A little bit better than mid. Yeah, it's fine. But I think we got a lot of character work out of Joe, Swerve, and Hangman, and we got enough of that to make it worth it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think this was a match more about the story than the match itself. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was looking at the comments. 2-Piece suggested Willie Mack for the meat match. And
that would be a good addition.
Just a name I haven't heard in a while. Good shout.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, get ahead about this main event match.
But, like I said, this was more about the story than the match itself. God willing, Hangman's okay. Otherwise, this was just not worth it. But, we have the pay-per-view next Sunday. So, you could only do so much. There's only so much story to tell before you start to stretch things a little too thin. I think next week's Dynamite is going to be pretty explosive as we go to the pay-per-view. And I thought this was a fine main event. I understand why it was the main event. It deserved from a story point of view to be the main event. But in terms of match quality, the tag team match that started the show was leaps and bounds better. Has this been the best triple threat build in AEW? I really did like Kenny versus Orange versus Pac.
That was a good one.
I know you're not asking about the match itself. I know you're asking about the build. Has there been many triple threat builds?
That's the thing. There aren't a lot, especially for the AEW World Championship. There aren't a lot of triple threat matches or three-way matches. I think WWE has the copyright on triple threat. But there haven't been too many. That's the only one I could think of off the top of my head. So in terms of builds for title matches, yeah, this is definitely one of the best ones because it's the only one of the two I can think of. The only other multi-man match I can think of for the AEW World Championship was the Four Pillars four-way.
Yeah.
So, and that had, I think we all thought that was a very good build. Yeah. So, when they don't do these multi-man matches for the title a lot, but when they do, I think they tend to deliver.
And they do it based off of story that warrants it. They don't just smush people together. Hangman and Swerve being the 1A, 1B, trying to get to that title makes so much sense. And them both vying for it at the same time works in a way that few triple threats could really match. So just A+ all around for everybody.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because we thought, or we were at least concerned with them bringing Hangman and Swerve back together after their feud seemingly had ended. And we're like, oh no, not this. We don't want it to go too long again. Don't do a Jericho feud and, drag it out past its expiration date. But these three men have made it worth our while by a lot. I don't feel like we've extended the Hangman Swerve feud too long. Samoa Joe has been perfectly placed into this feud rather than inserted or forced in, because it's really Swerve versus Joe for the title and Hangman just desperately trying to keep Swerve out of it, as opposed to Swerve and Hangman both got so hot that they had to put Joe in there because they both deserve a title shot. And I think that is a much, much better way to do it and go about it, because you're telling a much more unique story. Joe wants to face the best comers that he can face. Swerve is currently that guy. But Hangman also has the right, but he doesn't care. He just cares about keeping Swerve out of it. And because of that, he is slowly losing himself.
Yep.
And becoming this demonstrative, violent asshole that we saw tonight.
A real dick.
Yeah, I mean, he was in that promo, the backstage. He was RVD just wanted some weed, man. And Hangman cursed at him on cable television. Like,
shameful.
Come on.
Shameful. To answer Two Pieces' question, do we see Mustafa Ali having a high-profile match in AEW this year? Really like the stuff he's doing right now? Yes, I do, but I think we're a few months out from it. I think he's really enjoying being this indie sensation and being in TNA. I'm sure he's not signed to TNA. I'm sure he's not under contract, but I think he wants to really build and pad that resume before he signs anywhere. So, but yes, his stuff has been killing it. This politician character that he's running with he's one of the few guys who can make that work without feeling corny.
Yeah, everyone does a TNA excursion upon being released from WWE. Yeah, and then they were like, "All right, we'll see if we like it, and maybe we'll stay, maybe we won't." James and I will be seeing him at
House of Glory.
House of Glory on March 2nd, and I'm very excited to see him live. He has some of my favorite matches of all time, most of them in 205 Live. So, Two Piece also asking, could we see a finish where Hangman uses the last energy to prevent Swerve and sacrificing himself to Samoa Joe? Interesting.
I could see it happening. I could see it happening if they're dead set on not putting the title on Swerve. But the truth is, with how AEW's ratings have been, I think they need a jolt. And I am very, 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 very grateful Samoa Joe got to be AEW World Champion. I do not need a long run from him. I just don't. And I think you could justify it in a triple threat even more so that if he just loses it really quickly. I think Swerve as AEW champion is really righting the creative ship for them. I think it's really pouncing on something that the fans are into. Not that the fans aren't into Joe, but it's more of a respect thing, I think, than I am so into Swerve right now. So I think Swerve should win, but I think Hangman, I think we're going to get a variation of what you suggested.
You know, to me, Swerve is easily the hottest thing in AEW.
Yep,
and
absolutely.
I could make an argument before The Rock came back, he was the hottest thing in wrestling there.
I actually completely agree. I think he's one of the smartest wrestlers in kayfabe. I'd say there's only one or two people that could compete, Drew McIntyre being one of them. And I agree. I think he was so hot. I think he is still so hot, but just The Rock is The Rock, and you can't compete with that. But Swerve is on his own the best regular thing in wrestling right now.
Yeah, The Rock, not just because it's him, but the amount of exposure he brings. And with that exposure, the amount of negativity he brought, whether or not that was a work or they had to fix it really quick, the amount of negativity it brought so many eyeballs back to WWE, people being like, oh shit, The Rock's back. Oh shit, he's fucking everything up. Like everyone was flocking there. Whereas before that, everyone was like, okay, we're doing the Cody Roman thing again. Awesome. But have you seen the Swerve guy?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
You know, and he's still the hottest thing in the company. And yeah, as Kevin put in the chat, it's a no-brainer. I think you put the title on him. And to Eric's point, there is some negativity surrounding AEW right now. And I think they're doing a better job of righting that ship. And Swerve is definitely the next step in turning those sails.
Yep. No, I agree.
I'm so glad I turned that phrase. I'm so proud of myself. But that was Dynamite. And, in terms of, how things have been going recently, I think we're doing a very good job of building up to this pay-per-view. Was there another 2 more episodes or one more?
One episode of Dynamite left. There's obviously 2 collisions. No, there's...
Depends on whether the pay-per-view is on Saturday or Sunday.
No, it's on Sunday. So 2 collisions, 2 rampages, 1 Dynamite left.
All right, so I think they've been doing a good job building it up. Obviously, the main event has the best build, but if that even is the main event, I think Sting is probably going to be the main event. But that's got a great. You can't follow that. It's like the Rock Hogan thing. You just can't follow it.
Yeah.
So either way, both of those matches have great builds. I think you're getting a lot of great builds all throughout this roster. I think even the women's match has one of the best builds going right now. So I have been very excited for this pay-per-view. And since the show where Joe faced Hook in the main event for the title, I think we've had a string of good episodes just consecutively. Maybe it dipped a little after that one, the Dynamite after the title match, but I think they've done a great job since then building up to Revolution.
Eric says, nah, triple threat last, unless Swerve isn't winning. I mean, the last time, both times I think the title was in multi-man matches, it didn't main event. I don't think MJF in the 4-pillar match main evented. And Kenny, Pac, and Orange definitely didn't main event.
That I know didn't main event. That was in Jacksonville. Yeah. And I think that might have been the first one they had fans back.
It's possible.
Because it was, the angle was on the wrong way. Like, when they didn't have fans, it was towards the stage. The angle this time, the stage was on the right, the way they've been doing it recently. So
I don't think the 4-pillars match main evented.
I could have swore it did.
Maybe I could be wrong, but Anarchy in the Arena main evented.
Which one?
I'm looking it up right now. 4-pillar match.
All right, well, no, I gotta fill. Well, now I'm just trying to think what Anarchy in the Arena match that would have been if that was like the Bucks and BCC. Kevin's saying it's the Anarchy in the Arena one, but is it? And then actually, it might have been both times because I think Anarchy in the Arena Yeah, BCC and Kenny versus BCC versus the Elite.
So yeah, no, both times we've had multi-man matches for the title. It didn't main event. So
were they both anarchies in the arena?
I think so, because they were both in Jacksonville, I think, which is fucking crazy.
Yeah, no, the first one was in Jacksonville. The next one I didn't think was in Jacksonville because they've done. Oh no, because the third anarchy in the arena wasn't main eventer. I don't know, whatever. We're getting a little far down the rabbit hole.
Oh no, the second one definitely wasn't in Jacksonville, but no, both times they didn't main event. So yeah. I think history is going to repeat itself here, no matter what. And crazy stuff. Revolution's going to be a magical pay-per-view. I think it's going to hurt. I think it's going to be one of those shows that hurts us, but it's going to be great.
Yeah, there's a lot coming down this pipeline that is going to be heartbreaking. There really, really is. And, you can start with Sting retiring and work your way down from there. I think there's a good chance we see Hangman on a page turn heel for the first time since this company started, depending on whether or not you consider his alcoholism a heel turn. And we'll probably see Samoa Joe lose, which for me is going to hurt. I understand it's probably best, but I love him. He's one of my favorite wrestlers. Having him with the title has been great for me. So, and I'm sure you feel the same way, James, but it's time, but it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
And I feel like the Toni Storm Deonna match is going to be fairly emotional because of their friendship. So there's a lot of good stuff, I think, coming up at this pay-per-view.
Do I think MJF Cole 2 opens Wembley as a parallel from last year? I don't know. I don't think either man's going to be in the main event of that pay-per-view at the very least. I think it's going to be Ospreay versus maybe Swerve, or I don't know, but little different.
Yeah, and we'll see where Cole is coming off of his injury, just both in terms of his actual health and where he is on the card, whether or not he has the title. And we don't know where MJF is. He's not even technically listed on AEW's roster anymore. So at least on the website, the internal roster is a different story.
Yeah.
But who knows what MJF's going to do when he comes back? I'm sure it'll be to a massive, massive pop. But after everything he just did, he's going to have to
find a break.
Yeah, he definitely needs a break. But when he hopefully does return to AEW, there's some interesting storylines that he can pick up that I'm very much looking forward to. One of them being the Cole one, but I don't know if I'd necessarily jump right back in.
No, you have to. For a feud that was built up, and we were supposed to have gotten already, you need to just hit the ground running as soon as you come back.
Oh, no, I guess perhaps I should rephrase it. I do think he comes back against Cole. I don't think you're doing that match at that point of the year, just because I don't think he's going to be back for a while. I mean, Kevin says coming back at September in Grand Slam.
That would be crazy. That would be crazy. That's a long time.
That would also be after All In.
Yeah.
I think. So
it would
All In's in August. Yeah. So I can see him being out that long. I mean, he's hurt. He probably wants a break. I wouldn't be shocked. So we'll see what happens with him. I think that's where it's quite a ways away before we see MJF return. And he definitely doesn't return until Cole's healthy. I can guarantee you that. Eric disagrees, though. He doesn't think there's any shot he misses Wembley.
I'm inclined to agree. I don't think he misses Wembley. Maybe he returns at Wembley.
That was literally the words about to come out of my mouth.
Yep.
Maybe he returns at Wembley. Could be interesting. But all right, I think we've kind of hit all the points we wanted to hit for this episode. So on that, I would like to thank everybody so much for watching us here at the Market Down Podcast. We would appreciate it if you both like and subscribe. Liking the videos knows that you're enjoying them. Subscribing them to us both means that you want to come back and you're liking what we're doing overall. And it makes it much easier to follow us here every week. Obviously, we are back here on Wednesdays covering Dynamite. James has the Gym Pack Zone tomorrow on Thursdays. I highly recommend checking that out, both for the wrestling and for everything that's going on in the backstage world of TNA, because it is getting messy over there. Those 3 letters are jinxed, man. They are.
Really, the wrestlers aren't happy. The fans aren't happy. I don't think management's happy with how the wrestlers and the fans are reacting. Yep. So it's not a great time right now in TNA. But the show is still good, the talent is still good, and I'm still supporting.
Yeah, and I imagine you'll be covering the news with Josh Alexander and his re-signing / exercise and extension or whatever happened. I'm sure if you James will be covering that as well. So if you want to hear more about that, subscribe and you can check out the Gym Pack Zone tomorrow. We're starting to cover SmackDown a little bit more, so you can check us out there. And then obviously Danny has Raw Fast Forwards on Monday, and we are here for the pay-per-views. Are we waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning?
That might be one of those shows that we don't necessarily cover live, but I wouldn't be shocked if we cover at some point during the day.
Yeah, that's possible. I was considering it. My brother's going to be over this weekend, and I don't want to be asleep till 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yep.
Put him over. Can I do it? Yes. Is it impolite? Also, yes. If you would like to check us out on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. If you are on YouTube, all the links are in the description below. If not, check us out on Twitter at @marketdown_pod, on Instagram at marketdownpod, and our YouTube channel is youtube.com/marketdown3665. Also, for those of you on YouTube, if you would like to check us out on audio, we are on Spotify and over on Apple Podcasts as well. James, before we go, you got anything to say?
No, I'm happy to be doing this with you, pal. I know you've been back, but I feel like we aren't doing this as much. I miss us.
Ships in the night.
Seriously.
We've missed each other. I think you did a week by yourself, and then I did a week by myself.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I really don't want to do this. We could do it.
What do we?
He wants us to talk about O'Shea Jackson.
Pourquoi?
Because he doesn't want to clip out a second video. I'm not covering Cena. So
that has nothing to do with AEW. This is the AEW.
So this is what I'm gonna. I'll talk about O'Shea. O'Shea Jackson has O'Shea Jackson Jr. has every right to like and dislike what he likes and dislikes in professional wrestling. He is a avid CM Punk fan. He is an avid WWE fan. And he is very much pro Rock versus Roman at WrestleMania. The way Rock was calling everybody Cody crybabies in kayfabe, O'Shea was kind of doing that legit, it feels like. Don't stress it. He's allowed to like what he likes. He's allowed to say what he says. He's allowed to just have a different opinion. Don't stress it. He's just a dude. A famous dude, an acting dude, but he's just a dude. Quite frankly, I don't know why Chris Van Vliet took him on. Definitely a ratings boost for him, but he's just a guy who's a fan. Don't stress it.
Yeah. And I think him and Chris probably know each other from just general press tours, and O'Shea Jackson Jr. is kind of like, hey, I'll come on and talk wrestling with you. It'd be fun. As for his comments about some of the fans, I did kind of agree with him when people are gatekeeping. It does happen in AEW a little more than WWE, but when somebody shows up and if somebody goes to you, oh, you don't know who that is, you're an idiot. Yeah, that's kind of stupid. I think, don't be a dick to people.
Yep.
Explain to them, oh, this is this person. They did this and this. They're really cool. I think you're going to enjoy them. And try to facilitate that. That's what helps make fans.
Exactly.
Don't gatekeep. Don't look down upon somebody because they don't know who someone is. James tells me who people are all the fucking time. And I do a wrestling podcast.
And it makes me excited to share because it's like, dude, you're going to love this guy. So
exactly. So I thought he was right on those points. And look, if you don't agree with his wrestling opinions in terms of in-ring stuff and promo stuff, guess what? That's what makes wrestling great. You're allowed to disagree on it and debate it and go on podcasts and talk about it.
That's the beauty of this sport. That's the beauty of what we do. That said, O'Shea, I really want to know. Clip this for me, producer boy, because I want to make sure that maybe he could see this. I want to know. You were upset at the notion of Cody versus Roman as opposed to Rock versus Roman. What if it was Punk versus Roman? who would you have been rooting for in that situation? Would you have been rooting for Punk to finish his story, or would you have been rooting for the Bloodline story to be told? Let me know, please. Like, legit, I'm not, it's not a challenge. I'm interested to see what you would have said.
And also, I would hope he gives some other wrestling a shot. I understand he's a big WWE guy, but see, give AEW a shot again. Give TNA a shot. Expand. It'll help you learn more people, and then you have to add, deal with these gatekeeping assholes or whatever. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying. His quote was, "If I'm watching someone on AEW and ask who this guy is, I don't need you to tell me I'm not a real wrestling fan." That doesn't mean you're not a real wrestling fan. You don't know who somebody is. There's a lot of wrestlers in the world. It's completely understandable why you don't know. I didn't know those CMLL guys who showed up the other week. I think I knew one of them because he was, I think he was Sin Cara. But yeah, you're allowed to not know, and That's what it is.
Absolutely.
All right, that's pretty much all I got on that. So I hope you got your clips, producer boy.
He did it while also minimizing us so he could have Twitter in the background.
Yeah, the AI allegedly takes care of all that. I don't know. But I guess thank you again, everybody, for watching us here at the Market Down Podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe. No, I'm not going to do the whole thing again. But thank you all so much for watching. For James Ashanti and producer boy Eric Ashanti, my name is Nick Cummings, and we will see you next time here on the Market Down Podcast. Have a good night, everyone.